You are welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to look at 5 steps to economic recovery in Nigeria. Nigeria's economic recovery will require a combination of sound policies, strong institutions, and consistent implementation. Here are 5 keys to economic recovery in Nigeria. 1. Strengthen the agriculture and food security. Now, it is necessary that we understand that with the present state of Nigeria and the population and the size of this nation, we cannot only depend on oil revenues alone to sustain the Nigerian economy. Therefore, there is need for us to invest in agriculture. We should always remember that before the advent of oil, the Nigerian economy depends entirely on agriculture. And that is why we need to go back to agriculture if we really want to get it right. And when we get into agriculture, we should start with cash crops. Cash crops like cotton, rice, wheat, maize, oil palm, rubber, and so on and so forth. Now, when we grow these cash crops, we are growing the cash crops to feed the agro-based industries in the nation. And when we have exceeded the demand for local demand for industries, we can now go for export. That one will create jobs, because when the raw materials are there and industries are set up, it will create jobs for the population. Now, the second aspect of the agricultural sector we need to look at is food production. Now, there is need. The population is rising every day and the prices of food are so high. So we need to invest in food production. And for us to be able to invest in food production, we first of all need to tackle insecurity in these food producing communities, so that we will be able to produce the basic staple foods that we eat on a daily basis: rice, maize, sorghum, millet, and all these foods that we eat, tomatoes and all the rest of them, pepper. When we increase production in these sectors, then there will be enough food in the market. And when there is enough food in the market, the prices will come down and we'll be able to address the high level of inflation in this nation. So these are the 2 areas in the agricultural sector that we really need to look at. And when we get that right, we find out that the economy will begin to pick up and look in a different direction, where we are now producing, and then we are expecting that one day, if we are consistent on it, we'll be able to get it right. Now, some of the things we need to do in the agricultural sector, we need to improve security in farming communities, which I have said earlier. We need to invest in modern farming techniques. Most of our farming has been subsistence and dependent on rain-fed agriculture. We need to move beyond the rain-fed agriculture and begin to use technology to ensure that we produce all year round. Now, we also need to invest in reducing post-harvest losses, because we find out that statistics have shown that 30% of the food we produce are wasted due to post-harvest losses. So we need to improve in that area with better storage facilities, good transportation system, and processing techniques. We need to engage in massive cultivation of cash crops, such as cotton, oil palm, rice, wheat, and so on and so forth. When such measures are taken, and if we are consistent with it, the tendency is that we will be able to get out of the quagmire in which we find ourselves. The second area we need to look at is promoting manufacturing and industrialization. Nigeria cannot achieve sustainable growth by relying mainly on crude oil exports alone, as we have said earlier. So we need to ensure that we have a reliable electricity supply. One area that Nigeria really needs to tackle, if we are going to get it right, is to ensure that there is electricity supply. Now, how can a nation grow when there is no electricity? When businesses are powered by fuel and the price of fuel is so high that many businesses cannot afford the cost of running their businesses. So the first thing that we need to tackle in this nation is to ensure that there is electricity. Electricity for businesses, electricity for the basic things that we need in Nigeria. So the government need to tackle the issue of electricity if we really need to get it right, so that industries can thrive. Many industries cannot survive on diesel and fuel and petrol. So we need to get it right so that the industries will now have such a source of energy to be able to run effectively. Now we also need to support local manufacturing with tax incentives and affordable financing. We need to ensure that most of the, as we said earlier, most of the industrialized nations depend on small and medium scale enterprises. So we need to give incentives to these small and medium scale enterprises. Maybe 2-3 years, if you are just beginning, 2-3 years, we give them tax waivers to enable them survive and exist. And then also giving them soft loans that the interest rate is low, so that they will be able to pay back and continue to exist. And when this is done, find out that it will create jobs, and then it will move the economy forward. Another area we need to look at is mass production of industrial raw materials. That is why we are emphasizing on the cash crops like cotton, oil palm, rice, because these ones will now feed the cotton, now will feed the textile mills. The oil palm now will feed the oil palm mills, and then the rice. All these ones are crops that will create employment for people when it is properly managed. Now, another area we need to look at is to encourage local production instead of relying on excessive imports. Most of these products that we import can be grown in Nigeria. So any crop that, like wheat, for example, we have good ecological area that we can grow wheat. So we look at how these crops can be grown locally instead of just depending on imports alone. Because the lesser we import, the better for us. The pressure on the naira will go down, and then we will have enough to do other projects or build infrastructure. Now, the number 3 thing we need to do in order to get out of this economic quagmire that we find ourselves is to improve governance and fight corruption. Now, one of the areas that is sinking this economy is the way government manages resources. Now, when resources are not properly managed and we are not producing, and the little that we are getting from the oil is being squandered, there is the tendency that we will not be able to get it right. No nation develops under serious corruptions like we find in Nigeria. So we need to try and see how governance can be properly enhanced in such a way that, using technology, in such a way that corruption will be minimized to the barest minimum, so that monies that are budgeted for projects are used for projects. When we do this, we find out that the economy will begin to improve, so that monies that are budgeted for projects are used for projects, and the little money that we are getting from the oil is used to invest in production. And on such, you find out that the economy will begin to pick up. Because one of the problems that we are having is mismanagement. Another one is corruption and diversion of funds. These are some of the challenges we are facing. These are areas we really need to improve, so that we'll be able to reduce waste, we'll be able to employ technology to curb corruption, we'll be able to ensure accountability for public funds. Any money that is spent that is public money should be accounted for. So these are areas that we need to look at properly if we really want to get out of it. Now, if we do that, we'll find out that we'll be able to get it right and the economy will begin to pick up. The number 4 thing we need to look at is invest in human capital development. Now, in the human capital development sector, we know that we have schools that are turning out graduates every year, but these graduates are not employable. So we really need to look at vocational trainings in such a way that people that will be able to come and work in the industries that we are looking at, technicians, people that will be able to man the machines that are necessary to produce and use the raw materials that we are producing. So we need to redirect our education in such a way that vocationals and skills should be given priority and attention in such a way that these people now will now come and man the machines and the machineries that are needed to industrialize this nation. So we need to invest in human capital development. Then we also need to create a stable business environment. This is very, very important, because when we create a suitable business environment, the businesses will begin to thrive, and investors will also come from outside to invest in this company, in this country. We remember in those olden days that we have Indians coming to set up factories in places like Port Harcourt. We have the Indians setting up vegetable oil companies, biscuit companies, and all that. That was in the then good old days. These things can also be, we can redirect our economy in such a way that we begin to get foreign investors. They will come with their money, set up industry, create jobs for us, and then pay taxes to government. These are some of the areas that, if properly handled, we will be able to come out of this economic jam that we find ourselves. Now, if you have been enjoying this economic analysis and governance, please don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Thank you.